So our next speaker is Gay Walker. She's one of the founders of the Providence Trinity Kids Care Program of the Trinity Care Hospice, the only dedicated pediatric hospice program in Los Angeles and Orange counties. And she's worked with Dr. Bukalski, and it's a close-knit group, from what I can tell.
So, unfortunately, we're all asleep. We're all asleep and we're going to talk about something we all don't want to talk about. So, part of me is very constrained because for the last 20 years I've promised 3,000 children that we would remember them, that we would not forget them, that we would learn the lessons that they are teaching us to do all the marvelous work you're all doing. So half of our group is gone. So I'm going to try to do two things. I'm going to get to the point like kids do. Right? And I'm going to trust that if any of your colleagues have gone, because we have lots of life going on, there's lots to do. I hope many of them are in the bathroom, right? But I'm going to trust that you are going to find one other person, a colleague, a family, and share something that you're going to learn about the life of children and their spirituality before they leave us. So do I got that pledge from you?
Yeah.
Okay, so secondarily, can all of you who are bold enough to stay, stand up and shake it just a little? Because this is really, for me, can you tell me who's the IT? How do I? Here we are. If you've noticed a lot of these people, palliative care and spirituality, we're a little bit IT inept. You know, at least for me. But this one, this is bad. This one. Okay, good. Okay, let's sit down. I want you to know why I came today. Come on in. First of all, how many of you here have been a child? Really? So we could probably relate to some of this. How many of you have had children of your own? How many of you have had grandchildren? Yes, yes. Great-grandchildren. Want to close the door up for us? That's an important thing to say in a very short time, unfortunately. Thank you. Come on in. Is there anyone here who has had a child die? Yeah. That miscarriage, your child died. What, did you name your child? Yes. And the name of your child? Jean? Beautiful. Anyone else? Anyone else here who's been in the presence or loving a family or been on the floor or psychology who has gone through dying with a child? And a family? I'm here today because I'm retired. I'm here today because 3 years ago I retired. 20 years ago, when we got a referral from UCLA that a child wanted to go home to die, there was no way to get him home. Because in this country we had no services to let children go home and live their lives out. No hospice, no teams, no safety. We used to try to sneak kids home because they desperately wanted to be there, but that wasn't safe. So 20 years ago I said, it's not right. Not right. We old people need it, but that's not right. So I said, I dropped everything and stepped into the world of children. 17 years later, I learned a few things. 1,000, 2,000,
Thank you.
3,000 tiny bedsides teach you something. Right? All that you've heard so far up to today, and you're going to hear lots more tomorrow, so come refreshed, pertains to children. Except children are not just adults, and adults are not children, but the principles are the same. All children are living until they die. That's what they're doing, and boy, they do a great job of it, if you let them. All children are living until they die. No child wants to be fixed. Let me tell you how many times I've heard kids say, "Wait, I'm trying to fix it. I want to be fixed. I want to feel better so I can go home." No child wants to be fixed, like no adult wants them to be fixed, right? All children are full of curiosity. And we're going to learn just a little bit about it. My presentation today is coming from my heart, so I'm not going to stick to my notes. I wrote some stories, and I want to tell them to you because each of these stories that were told, we were asked by the children themselves, please tell my story. So none of this is contrived, none of this is made up. However, the presentation you're going to be hearing is evidence-based. So if you need evidence-based to know about spirituality and things we're going to talk about, wonderful. Because now we have a little bit. And Betty, Farrell, who will be here tomorrow, myself, we decided there's a whole community of people out there. I'm not picking on just psychologists. I'm not picking on heads of administration. But there's a whole bunch of world out there that really only can believe what we can prove through evidence-based. Perfect. So we got a research project done. So if that's what you need, we got it. But if you want to know what really happens to children as they're dying, and how we can help them, and how we can help families, and you don't want evidence-based, well then you don't have to refer to some of the research that I have listed. There are two main research projects that were done. One was published, which is amazing if you think about it, in the International Journal of Palliative Nursing, on the spiritual needs of families, and the other one was on the nurses' experiences with spiritual communication with children dying. And that was published, believe it or not, in the Journal of Palliative Care Medicine, which means that physicians and people who never could come right down to this, nurses, by the way, we find, have the hardest time with these kind of discussions we're talking about right now. Nurses who are the ones who are right there by the bedside, loving, fixing, helping. So we decided, let's talk about it, and let's do something about it. I want you to know that the artwork in this presentation was created by the true experts. All of these pictures, these beautiful drawings, have deep meaning because each of the children drew them. Many of them drew them while dying, saying, please use this if you're going to talk about us. Because why? They want us to know. They want us to know. Caring for seriously ill children is a spiritual experience for the child, the family, and us. So let's get it straight right now, because I'm going to try to keep us, I'm going to put an hour into 20 minutes. So let's get this really straight before we get to the end, right? Caring for children who are dying is a spiritual experience for us as well. So along the way, we need to be looking at our own spiritual experiences, don't we? We need to be defining, I do believe, I don't believe, what do I believe? When I started this journey, I knew all of the writings on Black Elk, the amazing Navajo leader, through his life. That's where I was at. I'm not there anymore, but that's okay. I've grown. Why? Because I didn't just open my head to some more research. I opened my heart to the spiritual capacity that I believe we all have, that children tell us about. Oh dear. See, I told you, here I am. Okay, we're grateful to them. We have a lot of literature, but we don't talk a lot about spiritual needs of children. Fowler, just if you need some information, you can get this all online. He talked about that children have faith, spirituality, and develop in stages. We used to believe that at age 12 you could have faith and begin to be a spiritual person. I have done studies on how did we come to that. you know, I met Elizabeth, one of my first children that I've ever taken care of at home, who was 6, dying of pancreatic cancer, which was odd. And Elizabeth said to me, can you come down here because she had a big belly, brothers running all over her. She was living, really living out her life. She said, could you come down here just a little lower so I could talk to you? And so I get there, because I'm in her home, so that's wonderful. And I'm down there, I said, what is it, Elizabeth? What do you want to tell me? She said, well, I want to tell you that there's a whole lot of spirit in all of us. No, really, how did you know that? Well, before I came to earth, I had to wait because my parents weren't ready. And they had to get ready in their hearts to accept spiritual things. This is the first time I, as an RN, ever heard that. Really? I said, well, how long did it take you to get here? She said, and you know, friends, we're all children, so we understand some of this. She said, okay, Miss Gay, it took me such a long time. You don't have words for it in this world. Now, these are common things that children begin to tell us, and expecting from us a welcome recognition, even if we don't believe it. I wasn't really sure what I believed about God when my journey started, to tell you the truth. I had lots of things going on in my life. But that's okay, because can we welcome someone who has a different thought? I'm going to talk about angels, and most of you are going to sit here and tell me it's a psychological, I don't mean that. I don't mean most of you, I don't mean that. Many people come up to me and say, well, angels, visions, these things, you know, these are psychological, traumatic events that we chronologize so we are not traumatized. Ooh, boy, well, I guess we haven't been in the same place. More and more you're reading, aren't you? Aren't you hearing on CBS? They had a big thing on adults on CBS News. That we have now discovered that people are seeing things and talking to people as they're dying.
Yes.
We're hearing people tell stories, with adults, about another world, about another reality. As their bodies become weak, the spiritual, but you know what? We don't have a lot about that talking about children. Now let me tell you, you're going to hear today. Because children remind us of the same thing. They talk to their friends, they talk to their grandmothers. Wait till I'm going to tell you right now, since I got your attention and your weight, let's keep it that way. A little sweet, oh gosh, Angela, right? Very bad end-stage leukemia. Almost died, but didn't, but fell asleep and was going slowly away. So that's when these visions, and that's when these perceptions begin to get a little stronger, which I want to hypothesize is part of the reason why we used to take dying children and put them far down the corridors. As a young nurse, I was ordered to move all dying children to the end of the corridor, right? Because there was, you know, you fear what you don't know, and you don't know what you avoid, right? So she said to me, she said, you know, the strangest thing happened to me. Her mom and dad are in the room. She said, I just saw Brian. Everyone sort of freezes, Brian. So we thought Brian was grandpa or grandma or auntie or something, because children, they have better things to do with the last minutes of their lives than to make up huge stories, let me tell you. Especially if they're well managed with physical pains, right? She said, I just saw Brian. She looks at her dad and said, why did you not tell me about Brian, Daddy? He's crying, he's weeping. She looks to her mother and says, Mom, why didn't you tell me about Brian? She starts weeping. So I sat there and said, oh, who was Brian? Who's Brian? Mother said, that was her brother. He died a month after birth, and we never told her about him. These things are not uncommon to encounter in the life of children, and I think it's because they're pretty innocent. Children have spiritual lives. Can you get it? Does that shock anybody here? They have spiritual, active lives that need our attention as much as the best help in their minds, the best help in their bodies, in their emotions. They have active spiritual lives. They have spiritual capacities and experiences, profound moments that shape their lives. They are sometimes stunning, often tender, and reveal a remarkable spiritual world. And Tobin Hart, by the way, You talk about a mentor. This man, we must have been connected with Brian was one day. Tobin Hart, this is a marvelous book you can only find online called The Secret Spiritual World of Children. He is a psychologist in West Virginia State who began to bump into all these kind of stories and realized spiritual life with children is real. They're united in these stories. Anna in the middle left. Her sister to the States said, she really left too early. She was too young to die at her sister's age. Children have spiritual curiosity. Oh, how I love it. They, like adults, seek the meaning of God, higher powers, connectedness, and relationships. Why would we ever think they didn't? Why would we think that? All cultures. Why would we ever think that children were unique and didn't have these needs that we're learning about in this seminar? All children, both healthy and the seriously ill, have thoughts and feelings about prayer and God. So if you go into a room or you have someone come to your office, do you need something back there? Who is it?
Eagle Woman.
Eagle Woman?
Yeah.
Oh, Eagle Woman, are you here? Not here yet. Okay. All right. I'm giving you these references, so if people say to you, yes, but that was only Gay Walker, who was a little bit strange after all these years. Right? No, there's lots, not lots, there's substantial representation in literature. Sumner was wonderful. Listen to this. Dr. Sumner recognized dying children's spiritual needs. Here they are. Now, you ask yourself, can you do this? Could you be this for a child or a family? I'm not telling you you need to go to 18 conferences, though that would help. But could you do this? Could you meet the needs of a child to love and be loved, to know that God loves all people and that He's not punishing them? That's a big theme, and I'll show you how we came to it. That what lies ahead is positive, children want to know, and they might be united with loved ones, and that they will be remembered. Unlike physical symptoms, which are visible, a child's dying spiritual distress is much harder to recognize and treat. I don't like that word, treat. When my grandson, if it should be, is dying, I don't want anyone to treat me for my distress. For all I've been taught by these children, and some of you, I will not be a calm, loving, understanding, God is good, the world is beautiful, there's meaning in this, like I feel right now. I will be unglued, a screaming banshee, losing my boy. Right? But don't treat me. Don't treat me. As great, and Christina would tell you this, as great as we have spiritual assessment tool now, and we're trying to figure one out for kids, which is really like trying to find an elephant in a really small cage. It just doesn't work. Don't treat me. Love me. Listen to me. Don't say to me, and we're going to encounter an angel here real soon. Don't say to me, well, you know, Johnny, there's not really an angel there. He looks at this nurse, Johnny, and he says to her, well, he says to me, before we got him out of the hospital, could you please tell that nurse not to sit in that chair? And I said to him, well, why don't you tell her yourself? Well, I tried last night, and she laughed at me. I said, well, why didn't you want me to sit in that chair? He said, that is where my angel sits to guard me, because this is a scary place. And I want you to know, after thousands of children going over the thin gray line, that is not an uncommon statement. Look at them. Interesting thing that all these children are dying. Look at their pictures. Children's spirituality. Children have the capacity. Listen to this. We said this about, are you still awake? Are you with me? We said this about adults inadvertently throughout the day. Children have the capacity for wonder. This, please, you can take picture, it's also online. Children have the capacity for wonder, wisdom, compassion, deep questions. Holy moly, I have 2 boys, 2 and 5. Why? Why did you think God? Wait a minute. Wait, did you say he died? What happened to the canary? Why? And the older you get, the deeper the questions get. And see beneath the surface of the physical world, finding meaning, purpose, and connectedness. That's my dear heart friend, Tobin Hart. He has a way of saying it. One of thousands of pictures. Tell me what is the most important thing that's happened to you before you're about ready to leave. Picture an angel insisted, get me feathers, because angels have real feathers. Tell the people they have real feathers. I'm not, this little girl goes, I'm not making this up. Research, here's what we did. You're going to hear some of the following narratives. Through ELNIC, I don't know if any of us nurses have ever been there. Mainly ELNIC is nursing and nurse practitioners and physicians in peds and geriatrics. A great teaching for end-of-life palliative care and hospice care. We decided, because there was not much written, we were going to ask the nurses or anyone in the audience at 3 ELNIC conferences and the Comfort Program Consortium to please send us in, write us stories about conversations or experiences that they had in the spiritual world, undefined, with children. So we quantitated them, we got common themes out of them, and we came to 4 major themes with children. I'm going to give you, because of what time is limited, I'm going to give you their 4 themes and read you the stories that come along with them, and then I'm going to give you the 4 themes that parents gave us. These are things that people who are in the time of spiritual need, chaplains, nurses, psychologists. Did we have a child life person in here? Child life, who else? Well, a lot of people have gone. These are the things that came out of what families and children were telling us they needed. First theme, why? I remember working night shift at the bedside and on the adolescent unit. These teenagers were often alone at night with their nurses, which was me, as company. Anybody of you here work a night shift? Yeah. Lots happens at night. A lot happens in my own life at night. Like, I'm not sleepless, I usually sleep at night. But a lot seems to go on when nighttime comes. These teenagers were often alone at night. This was often a time when these kids asked big questions about God, about faith, their place in the universe. These kids had an extra element of time limitedness to their questions. They needed answers. They didn't have so much time left. I sat in that NICU, and I sat in that NICU here. Let's bring it home. I bring it here at UCLA. I did a shift. There was a group of 10 adolescents for some reason at that time, all life threatened. They couldn't wait till the night came. And for those who could go, they went down to a little room, started talking, trying to sneak in pizzas, whatever they could do, right? And they started talking. Well, what do you think it's going to be like? And they'd start describing what they thought it was going to be like. Or they'd start saying, hell, I don't want to go there. I don't even want to leave here. So after about 3 weeks where they all stayed in PICU, they all made a pact. Because, you know, we believe in therapeutic communities, don't we? Isn't that the hopeful end of all of this? That we're all going to go back to where we are, and we're going to start making bigger communities. That are going to know how to take the fear out of dying, or going to know how to love children and not say, I'm so scared, I got to run at the end of the hall. Isn't what we're hoping here to be bigger than you sitting in this seat? We want it to be a big experience. Helen's worked hard to get this bigger and bigger and bigger. Just don't take it home to your little office. Grab somebody, start teaching them. So they made a pact. This was, 15 years ago. They made a pact that they would start planning the parties they were going to give each other now. If you can bring stuff over, could you bring this? They really seriously had a plan because they somehow knew, and I would ask them, well, how do you know you're going to meet up over there? I don't know, we just know. All faiths, 3 different types of cultural biasing, right? So they started making plans because they were a community here, and boy, once they went over, they were going to be a community there. That's what happens in the nights. This is what happens to children and their families in the nights. Look at that. Asked to this young woman, who a beautiful 18-year-old woman, was going to have a child, never did deliver the child. When asked, what does the night look like to you? This was it. She said, the lights are still on. I'll get some answers. It's beautiful things people have to say to take time. The other thing was the afterlife. Oh, I love this one because, oh boy, I was not convinced. I have to tell you. I mean, I sort of believed in the afterlife, but the more stories you hear, and here's what one nurse explained was what it meant to go to the afterlife. You know, we used to be taught, don't use the D word. And we still sort of shy away from dying, the children particularly. Because what you find now in the literature, children want to talk about, it's just the parents don't want to talk about it. So by the time you tell the child, 80% of those children say, I knew it, why didn't someone talk to me? Interesting. We didn't, because we couldn't. Children and their families have crossed what I like to refer as the thin gray line. That almost imperceptible line between the worlds. This is what Ira was getting onto today. The place where we leave one and we enter the next. A permeable barrier, membrane, a place of passage, an open door, a fraction of an inch. I have learned that each child's spirits take that step. I want to help them cross the river as gently as we can. It's not so far away. And who said this is not woo-woo? One of the speakers said this is not woo-woo. Well, this is not woo-woo. These are realities that we're beginning to see. Look at this. Talk about crossing the river gently. Wouldn't you like to be able to help a child do that? Or his family? Oh boy. There was a third theme, and that was God's call. These are very unique themes. You would think something else would come up, but these are the themes that came out of the children, the nurses' conversations with children. Okay. They seem to feel as if voices, energy, someone, something, and some of them were not always positive. One boy was scared to death because his demon was taking him out. Many, but they had a sense that they were being called from one place into a welcome spot in another. Could have been the middle of the universe, but it was a welcome place that they were going to. Not just a Christian idea, by the way, of these children. This is beautiful. This is one of the children that I got to sit with. She told her daddy that she was so very tired because they wanted to talk with her. It was a little rude, she thought. She was trying to rest. It was 3 days before Maddie died. But in her dreams, she was carrying on lovely conversations with her friends on the other side of things. She felt that she should not tell her parents yet what they were saying. Then one evening, before her death, she awoke. Daddy, can you see it? It's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I feel like I'm floating just like they told me I would. This is fun. Her parents are destroyed. She's thinking about, this is quite a fun experience. Her father looked up to the ceiling, who, by the way, was an agnostic. Her father looked up to the ceiling and said softly, I don't know who you are, but I think you are here to help my daughter not be afraid through this process. Thank you. Please take care of her. Oops. That's Maddie. She loved the sea. Maddie, for whom the Seaside Institute down in Dana Point was created, because she loved the sea. Her family, who listened to her, raised $4 million in 2 weeks and instituted where she loved, because she had a legacy. She wanted us to remember her. She had a message. Okay, here's theme 4. Nurses' presence and the importance of addressing spiritual needs. Now this is a little long. If you want to close your eyes and you promise not to fall asleep, you need to stand up, right? I want to read this to you because it envelops and includes so many things we're talking about here. About, you may not be a chaplain, but you might be called upon to be one. And if you need somebody, go get them. It's hard when they're in their homes. They left the hospital, right? It covers the needs of family members watching their child desperately die. Maria's dad had prayed many prayers to Our Lady of Guadalupe. Do you know? Oh gosh, this story was from UCLA too. I did that unbeknownst to myself. She sat here, was so lonely for 4 months with her osteosarcoma that she began to shred the sheets on the bed and get little threads and make little flowers out of them. She eventually took 150 of them home that she sold to provide for her burial. Maria's dad, I use Maria, let's use. Maria's dad had prayed many years to Our Lady of Guadalupe. And by the way, that's why I bring it up. She loved Our Lady of Guadalupe. She was sure Our Lady of Guadalupe would help her. And she did the whole, anyone here do that service? The Lady of Guadalupe with the beautiful needlework that's done with the Virgin Mary. Very significant to this young girl. As he was so grieved that Maria did not have a mother in these final days, true mother. On the last evening before she left us, it was difficult. Symptoms were escalating. She needed holding and bathing and loving. Dad asked me to do these things. He asked me to pray the rosary with her and continue in prayer until she died, which seemed moments away. I had never prayed the rosary in my life. So I asked Dad to pray and I would repeat, right? I couldn't, but he could. Remember what Christina said. He spoke mostly only Spanish and I don't speak Spanish. Interesting language, the language of spirit. Amazingly, I could understand what he was saying and repeated that rosary so many times. He was finished, but sweet Maria was still with us. He went to check on the younger brother asleep in the back of the garage, which is where we lived. That's where we lived together. Without thinking, I began to sing hymns to her. Can you imagine on the floor here, if you were moved to start singing a hymn or an Indian chant? My question is, would you? Intuition told this nurse to do that. I began sing hymns to her, rocking her, keeping her safe, weeping for her, wiping her forehead with a cool towel. She didn't need her blood pressure taken every 4 hours. Telling her all would soon be well and that she was not alone. The angels were coming. Dad came back and stood gazing at us there on that small old couch. And he too began to weep. Madre, Madre, Madre has come. In that moment, I thought he was referring to the Lady of Guadalupe for some reason. Then he softly said as he turned to me, "You, señorita, Maria's mama, gloria a Dios." I do believe we are often the answers to someone else's prayers. I was not just Maria's nurse for that little time. I was an answer to her father's prayers. The holy word. Children, look at that. There's her little family. Pause and think of that. The care of parents, the second research project. A child's spiritual needs should be assessed in the context of the parents and family. Parents are walking into a world of grief that unless you have worked in bereavement or had a friend who child has left, is a new world, a new country. And most of these parents call it grief brain. They can't remember anything. In fact, in hospice work, by licensure, you have to give bereavement for a year. I promise I'll be done in 5 minutes. You have to give bereavement by license for a year. Except you want to know what we're told now? Parents don't start to feel until almost a year and a half, 2 years later. So giving a lot of care and words, standing alongside and loving them. And another, the care of parents. Spiritual care is essential to any patient-centered quality care. Failure to respond to spiritual needs, death and the bereavement of families, I would say, is morally unjust, having been where I've been. So every child that we knew, this is Brian. She made a fake. She wanted Brian, her brother, who she didn't know, to be on the family tree. She'd only seen him. She hadn't even been there yet to see him. Right? Everyone wanted, and we weren't sure how this would work. Every family member, and if you have a family member that has certain customs like 60 people at a time, these pictures become like beautiful mosaics, the care of parents. The 4 themes that we found from parents when nurses talked with them, they were angry, they placed blame and regret. Interesting, isn't it interesting that the parents do this and the children do those things? That's very interesting to me. Anger, blame, and regret, the need for forgiveness, rituals, and cultural traditions were utmost. Parents, as far as anger goes, why God, why me? Here's a big one that you need to know in spirituality with parents. If you look at them and say, man, I had a long time not being mad at God myself. I had a long time to process. How could this happen to all these children? And I was a little angry myself. But the part of anger that really got to me was this. Parents were angry at themselves for putting their children through so much. It's interesting, because every parent wishes to. And when we studied that a bit farther, you know what it turned out? They were so forlorn. We don't have statistics yet. It's forthcoming. They were so forlorn and attempting so much that they didn't feel as if they were given honest communication about what was really happening. And that a trial meant that this was not a cure. This was just a phase 1 trial. So when their child died, they were angry at themselves for years that they put their child through things that were futile. That's huge to me. That would be another good study. Seriously ill and dying children have spiritual experiences. Can you remember that? I say, why did I come to a seminar to hear that? Why? Because there are children all around us who are full of wisdom and love and laughter and curiosity that someday will be dying. We need to recognize it and nurture it and not say, I'm going to sit in that chair anyway because I don't believe in angels. Care workers working collaboratively with their interdisciplinary colleagues, including chaplains. Please, a call for more chaplains in the workforce. The care of all seriously ill children is sacred work, and we are fortunate to support them through this journey. All children, those who will be cured of their diseases, those who will survive for many years, and those who will die, deserve quality care, including spiritual care. 2 minutes. This beautiful picture was drawn with a brush in his mouth of, I can tell you his name now, because he would die if I didn't tell you his name. Well, he didn't die, but he would die. He did die. That's how he was. He had EB. So you know that's the sloughing off of all your skin, butterfly child. So pretty soon you have no skin, you are bones and sac, and you hope your organs stick behind your muscles, and it's a horrid disease. He was 18 years old, and he was confined to his bed for the last 4 years, and he would be wrapped ceremonially in gauzes, and rewrapped, fixed, and pain management, and his mother did it all with the help of some nurses. And one day she broke down to me and she said, yeah, I wished I could have been a mother and not a caregiver. I wished I could have done something special for Alan. And this beautiful nurse, it might be you one day, a loving comment, an accepting, loving, she said, but you are a beautiful mother. Every day you have taken 149 gauzes and made Nauman a new shirt. Christina said this to me this morning. Sunita Puri, you need to read her.
Yeah.
Life of Medicine. She said, there's a physician who wanted to fix everything, make everyone better, and people were dying, including children. She said, his body remained, she writes about the death of a child that she agonized over. But his body remained, but he quietly and comfortably moved out, leaving behind his tattoo, his bruises, his clot, his cancer. So please, work on yourself. Be willing to ask big questions. If you think you believe something now, be open to the fact that it might change tomorrow. If you're with a child who's dying, it will change.